3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing, episode 48. And I was going to say sat opposite, but it was kind of sat obviously 2 meters apart.
Naturally.
Adjacent is Dom the Bomb Herbertson.
How we're doing, young'un? How are we doing, Chrissy Rouse?
Not too bad. How are you?
It's a little bit weird, obviously, not having the table. Obviously, the spring cleaning's gone to your damn head. The whole house is getting turned upside down, but every time I see it, it's getting better, which is good to see the families coming together, Chrissy. Great to see, young'un.
I tell you what, we've got another sponsor in it's a new sponsor for this episode, and all I can say is I wish I lived closer to this place.
Oh, Irish. Have you actually met Irish Bob?
No.
This is the guy behind the sponsorship. Irish Bob, he's mad as a box of frogs, and that's what the world needs. But I tell you what a genuinely nice guy. And he's just set up a new business, which you're going to kindly introduce here.
That's right. Aye. So the sponsors for this podcast is the Machine Shop. They run a fantastic support service for privateer racers. The Machine Shop is an open access bike preparation workshop based near Mallory Park in Leicestershire. You can make use of £25,000 worth of tools and machinery to get your bike race ready. Open till 11 p.m. every night, the Machine Shop offers you access to bike lifts, MIG welders, TIG welders, lathes, mills, sandblasters, part washers, tyre machines, wheel balancers, RSU compressors, anodizing, powder coating, polishing and spray booths. Starting from just £30 a month, the Machine Shop uses the same membership style fee system as a gym, but instead of pumping iron, you can shot blast, weld, turn, chop, cut, mill, drill or respray smashed up fairings. Training on the equipment is included in the price, and their coded welders offer an affordable fabrication and welding lessons if needed. Search the Machine Shop Hinckley or call 07 4969 99037 for more information. And like I say,
what a brilliant idea.
I know. Do you know, imagine the crack there, like a load of club racers, all, chasing the same dream. After every weekend, could turn up with smashed up bikes, getting them all prepped, using each other's, all the equipment and like making stuff for the bikes, getting them all sprayed up and that. I mean,
better than going to the gym, like he says. I think that's a perfect way of doing it, isn't it?
Like I said, I just wish there was something like that around here. It sounds like an absolutely mega idea. And obviously, around that sort of Hinckley area, you've obviously got the Triumph Factory, Mallory Park. There's a few race teams based around there. It is actually quite a bit of a hub for motorcycle races. I know quite a few.
It's in the Midlands, isn't it? So it's in the middle of the hub. So
any sort of anyone in that sort of area, club racing, or if you're doing track days or whatever, it's definitely worth checking out. And like I say, really, really good idea.
I can also imagine that you'll get jobs done for you as well. You know what I mean? I don't think you'd have to sign up to this membership just to access that. I think you'd be, by the looks of it, it'd be silly of Irish Bob not to obviously open up the doors to getting other jobs done. So if you don't have any powder coating services or anything needing welding in a hurry, I think he'd be more than happy to help you out. So no, that is brilliant.
£30 a month, like what's that, £360 a year.
You're the maths teacher. Here we go.
In the grand scheme of things, in racing terms, like how much you pay for those services if you're paying, but to learn and do it yourself, that you're going to save that money straight away. So it sounds like a no-brainer if you live in that area. So yeah, get in touch on the mobile number, and hopefully. When I was speaking to Bob, we were actually talking about maybe going down and doing a bit of a podcast there, and we can maybe like make something on the lathes or whatever. So that sounds good. We'll maybe get that sorted for later on in the year.
After the lockdown, after the dear lockdown.
But big thanks for that. But anyway, we've got a really good pre-recorded conversation coming up with ex-World Superbike champion, ex-British Superbike champion,
all-round nice guy,
top TV pundit Neil Hodgson. And we've just finished recording that. It was a proper good laugh, so I think you're in for a treat.
Wait, he self-writes it, doesn't he? You know what I mean? You just ask him one question, he can answer 20 for you.
Professional.
Well, that's it. You know what I mean? I don't think he'd get as far as he has in his career without being a total nugget. And he's brilliant in interviewing. It's obviously with his busy schedule, even during this damn dreaded lockdown, he's still flat out busy. Funny enough, before the interview, Chrissy, we were sitting down watching him live on BT Sport there, weren't we? From his own living room. He's got the headphones in. It shows the integrity of the man to just be able to switch on to other jobs. It's absolutely brilliant, man. But enough about Neil before we put him on. What have you been up to?
Not a great deal, really.
Like the rest of the country.
I know I did actually have to pop out the other day. Obviously, I know we're on lockdown, but I had to go through to town to get some medication for my granddad. And obviously, with us not being able to drive at the moment, I had to take the bus. And I tell you what, mate, there was a right dirty old bugger on the bus.
All right.
I caught this dirty old bugger behind us, looking at naughty pictures over my shoulder.
Oh, yeah, man, Chrissy.
What about yourself? Have you been up to much?
Oh, not much, man, but I think I'm losing the plot mind.
Yeah.
I tell you what, you'll never guess what I saw the other day.
Go on.
Well, I saw this penguin driving down the road.
In a car?
Aye, penguin. So anyway, this penguin's going down the road, right? Driving along, minding his own business, and suddenly he hears this huge knock in mind. Braying out the bonnet, huge knocking. And he's going to himself, tell you what, I'll just nip into the garage around the corner. So anyway, he drives in. There's no one there, so he waddles off and pops his head into the office there. And this monkey comes around the corner, Chrissy. And obviously the monkey goes, oh, how can I help you, son? And the penguin goes, wait, I've got a proper, honestly, it's braying its head in the car. And the monkey goes, right, we'll come back in a couple of hours, son, and I'll have a look at it for you. So anyway, the penguin waddles out the shop. And he goes, what can I do for a couple of hours? So he goes, right, well, I'm going to go down to the beach. So he waddles off down to the beach as quick as he can. He gets down there and he thinks, oh, class. I know what'll tee my day off beautifully. I'm going to get myself an ice cream. So he goes up, Hippo in the ice cream van, goes, oh, what do you want? So he goes, I'd love a raspberry ripple. So anyway, he goes, right. Scoops it up, puts it in the cone, reaches over, and Hippo goes, here, son, how are you going to hold this? And the penguin goes, oh, bollocks, I've got flippers, I can't hold it. He goes, Mr. Hippo, if you could put it between my feet, that would be mint. So anyway, Hippo reaches over, puts the ice cream cone between his feet there. And the penguin goes, how the hell am I going to eat this? And he goes, oh, right, neighbour. So anyway, he bends over, starts having a go at the ice cream. So anyway, he stands up, realises the time. He's covered in ice cream, it's dripping off his beak right down his chest. He's like, oh, bollocks, I've got to go back and get my car sorted. And he waddles up the street as quick as he can. Sticks head in the garage, you can't see the monkey. He goes, oh, hello. And so the monkey slides out from underneath the car, looks him up and down and goes, I think you've blew a seal. And the penguin goes, no, it's just ice cream. It's bad when you laugh at your own crappy jokes. Anyway, so that was my day, son. That was my day. And obviously, bar that now. Damn penguins. Without further ado,
let's cut the crap and get on with the interview. There we are.
It was actually over an hour, wasn't it? Well, now
stop telling people that, man. You got to stop telling people.
Neil Hodgson.
So pleased to be joined by Neil Hodgson. Neil, thanks so much for giving us your time. Obviously, you've been live on BT Sport all day. How are you finding recording from home?
Well, what are we talking about? Actual TV or doing the podcast thing?
the TV, yeah.
Listen, let's just deal with the elephant in the room. All right. Are you pissed off that I'm doing a podcast? I need to know. Come on.
No, I've been enjoying it.
I am though, Neil. I am. You know what I mean? It's obviously, Chrissy came up with this idea a year ago. You lads are miles behind. Now, a man of your, obviously, caliber on a motorcycle, you won't be used to being behind, son, but you are. How does that feel? Feel? World Superbike, BSB champion, and you're behind, son.
I'm not only behind. I'm close to getting lapped. Let's get on it. Let's be honest about it. We're so far behind. Yeah, me and Gav started it a few weeks ago, obviously, in the lockdown. The main reason we started the podcast is, though, that honestly, Gav's a bit of a weirdo, right? He's got a funny old life. He won't mind me saying this, or he probably will, but I don't care because he won't be listening. So, but like he finishes MotoGP, gets on a flight, goes home, and sits in his underpants all week watching sport. He watches every sport there is, and I mean from basketball, rugby, cricket, golf, American football. I mean, what a loser! But imagine now, there's no live sport on for him. So he's literally pulling his hair out. So I didn't know what to do. So that's why we started the podcast. But I thought we'd discuss the podcast straight away, just so that there's no, I didn't want any hard feelings. But there's we're just copying you. There's no point in lying about it. We haven't thought of anything original. We're just copying you guys. That's all. So
I've been proper enjoying it. Have you had a favourite interview so far?
Well, the easiest was Susie, because she's obviously a very good friend and she just gets it completely. What's hard is, I wish if me and Gav were in the same room, it'd be easier, because I could look at him and give him the nod to go, I'll ask the next question. But because we obviously have the isolation situation, obviously he's in Leeds, I'm in the Midlands, and then whoever you're speaking to. So it is quite difficult that way, because then you know what it's like when you all talk at the same time. It's a bit shit, isn't it? So you're just trying to get that balance right. But I'd say Susie's been the easiest. I think John McGuinness has been the funniest, which was no surprise there. Because have you guys done John? You have, haven't you? You've been to his place, haven't you?
Yeah, we had a day there. He got a speedway bike out for Dom, and we're having races around his garage. He's got this hoverboard thing, and it was mega. We had a proper good laugh. But he's a top. Go on, what were you saying?
I was going to say we'll have to go there when this is all finished. But how come you didn't go on the speedway bike?
I can't remember if I think it was just after I'd had my shoulder. Did I have shoulder surgery beforehand? Or
there's a few excuses there, Chrissy, you've got to pick through, isn't there? You know what I mean? You just think of the best lie to tell Neil Hodgson there.
Yeah. It was to do with, I remember I was I think I was injured at the time, or I was just recovering from an injury, so I didn't want to risk anything stupid. But no, it was a good laugh. Anyway, we've got this interview sorted. We were going to do it yesterday, and we've ended up doing it. Obviously, it's Easter Sunday today, and it's given us a little bit of time to do a bit of research. I've been watching some old YouTube races and reading some various things. And today, if your Wikipedia page is correct, today marks a 30-year anniversary of quite a poignant day in your career. Do you know why?
Because it's my first ever race on tarmac was 30 years ago at Langbar, of all places.
Right. Is Langbar, is that Teesside Autodrome?
Yeah, well, I think so. I mean, it's all changed now, but yeah, it's up that neck of the woods. So is that what it's called now? Yeah, I think it is.
Teesside. That's actually the first place that I rode a tarmac bike as well, and it was a Tuesday. It was a Tuesday night practice session. Me and Dad turned up. There was only one other rider on the track. He was called Richard Ferguson, and I ended up. My dad was full. Do you know how there's a little mountain in the middle where you can watch? Yeah. So my dad was stood on top of there with the video camera, and I ended up knocking the only other person on the track.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it was fun. Good times. But obviously, so it started 1990, and. It's similar to me. I did motocross and then got into the road racing, and then obviously you quickly went up to sort of British 125s. Were you riding for your dad back then? Was he preparing the bikes and running the team?
Yeah, but my dad. What happened was, in the really early 80s, my dad did a bit of club riding. It was sort of bang average, to be honest. And he won't listen to this, so I can say it. So he didn't pull up any trees, but he really enjoyed it. He'd no money. And so then when I've got an older brother who's 18 months older, so me and my brother ended up doing a bit of schoolboy motocross, but my dad had always wanted me to be like a road race guy, riding on tarmac. I had no interest, to be honest, because I was your typical frustrated motocross rider. I wanted to be Rick Johnson. So when I started road racing, then I rode with for my dad, or it sounds like my dad was professional. He ran professional teams. What basically happened is we just started road racing, and then when I got sort of signed up in 1995 to go race 500 Grand Prix, my dad missed it straight away. And then we were good friends with Darren Barton, so my dad said, "Oh, well, I'll just run Darren Barton," and Darren Barton won the British Championship for him. So then my dad ran 125 teams for quite a few years. So that's sort of how it worked.
Yeah, well, obviously when I was doing GP 125s, I remember your dad being involved, and he was a top engine builder for the 125s. And it was Leon Camier used to ride for your dad in 125s as well, didn't he? And did Chris Burns?
Yeah.
He's a Geordie lad, and obviously ended up in MotoGP as well. Does your dad still have any involvement in the bikes other than just watching?
No, he still loves it, obviously, watches it from afar, but he was good. My dad he got the best out of people, and he was good at spotting young talent. He really was. So, like you said, he won the British Championship with Camille, and Casey Stoner finished second in it. So it wasn't an easy British Championship back then. So, but no, my dad still loves it.
I've got a name for you. Now, I really hope he hasn't been lying through his two front teeth here. But do you know a man called John Davies from Ashby de la Zeus area?
Really well, yes.
Really well. Now, he's actually one of my sponsors. I race for him now on the road. The TT, yeah. I race for Davies Motorsport with his nephew, Colin Davies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you saying you were like he had a part in the beginning of your career just before you made the huge jump from obviously club racing up to MotoGP, Motor 500s. So yeah, what did John do for you? Have you got bearing in mind? Have you got any good gossip on him, because he's a hard man to get a word in, and I would love to have something bend him over a barrel with, some proper juicy stories. If you could share that'd be fantastic.
Stories. But do you know what John was? John was, and both you will appreciate this. He was one of those key people in your career, that just turned up out of nowhere, really, and became a sponsor and helped me, and had worked with some really fast riders throughout his career, through sponsoring people and doing a bit of racing himself. And when I was really inexperienced, so in 1991, basically we bought a bike off him in 1991, and then he ended up sponsoring me. So I had John Davis on the side of the bike. And he was just like a calming influence, a nice guy to have around, because I sort of trusted him. And he'd always I can't do his accent, but he's got quite a strong accent. I know, so do all three of us on this call. but John's got a real strong Midlands accent, and he'd put his arm around me. And if I was a bit stressed, he'd just give me a few words of advice. And his line was always, I can't do if I could do his accent, it'd be funny, but he'd go, "Fast and smooth, mate. Fast and smooth." And he'd whisper it to me, "Just fast and smooth. Remember, fast and smooth, fast and smooth." He must have said it to me 1,000 times, but I actually got it into my head: fast and smooth. Don't rush the corners, and all the let's say the basics of racing. A lot of that came down to John, and that was back in 1991. An eternity ago. But it's interesting how your career, I was always quite smooth. You know what I mean? And you wonder, did that play a part in it? So yeah, good old John Davis. Please say hello from me, because he's bought me a fair few beers over the years, and actually he got me my first proper professional massage out in Malaysia, and that's another story altogether. I had shocking my bloody life when I walked into the room, and she said, "Take your clothes off." So I did, and I stood there in my undies, and she went, "No, everything off." I was like, what? How does this work out?
John Davies, the man who teaches you life lessons, eh? There we are. I bet a massage has never been the same since, though. You know what I mean?
Never.
Oh, I've got a bit of a bad shoulder. Neil, why have you got your pants off, son? Can you put your trousers back on? I bet it's a bit awkward.
Exactly. I've been disappointed at every massage since, but John sponsored my first massage. How's that? There you go.
Oh, good man.
Oh, mega. And looking through the years and looking through your career history, it didn't take you long to get up to the elite in bike racing. So 1994, making two 500 Grand Prix. It was Argentina and Spain, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it if you thought about somebody starting out now and starting out at Teesside Autodrome and then 4 years later being at entering Grand Prix, it was like a massive fast track. Looking back on your career, are you pleased that you did sort of throw yourself in at the deep end so early?
Yeah, it's all a bit bizarre looking back, because at the time there was no master plan or anything really. So I just was like every racer does now, no different. You're just riding your bollocks off, trying the best you can, hoping to be the best you could possibly be. And I was really lucky. Lots of things fell in my direction, really. And when I was lucky to have the dad I did, because my dad had a lot of drive and a lot of determination, probably more than me. So when I won the British 125cc championship in 1992, I'd have been happy then the following year maybe to do 250s or something. And my dad's like, no, we're going to Grand Prix, so let's do Grand Prix racing. Now, bear in mind, I always feel like you have to say this, back it up. We weren't loaded by a long shot. We lived in a 2-up, 2-down style house on a housing estate. And my mum was a van driver for the local printer. You know, my dad worked full time and my mum worked full time. It weren't like, oh, we were loaded and we just went Grand Prix racing. But so I was lucky I had that drive from behind. So I was just along for the ride. If without sounding cocky, I rode as hard as I possibly could, but it just all seemed to happen. It was like, oh, we're doing Grand Prix racing in '93, like my 4th full season, and I'm racing Grand Prix. And then after a couple of years of that, it was like, oh, we're going to do 500s now. And I was lucky to get signed up because the results weren't too bad at the time. And yeah, before you know it, do you know what? The weird thing, before I knew it, I was I was John Kaczynski's teammate on a factory Ducati in World Superbikes. It was 1996 and I was 21, 22, but I wasn't ready for it because I'd not ridden big bikes or 4-strokes or, well, twin, obviously, because I was on a Ducati, but I didn't understand. I was riding 125 lines still, too much lean angle, but you'd no mentors back then. You'd no spotters, so you just learned the hard way. And it took me a lot of years to learn how to ride a superbike properly.
And considering you hadn't had a great deal of 4-stroke experience by then, I know it wasn't, that your first stint in World Superbikes obviously wasn't as successful as when you came back, but you still did, a lot of sort of around 5th, 6th places. And when you think about that in World Superbikes terms, it's, it's very impressive. A lot of crashing, but obviously you could tell you were doing your best, trying your hardest.
No one bloody told me. Literally, it was too much lean angle. That's why, right? I was known my first 3 years in Superbikes. Everyone's like, oh, Hodgson is good for a lap. He's good for a lap. Yeah, I was, because I had grip. So I could do a lap time. I could get myself, I was always on the front row of the grid. But then come mid-race, someone who was on the 5th row of the grid would outbrake me and I'd think, what's going on? But like I said, it took me a while to figure it out. But once I did figure it out, then it became easier to ride a bigger bike.
Mm-hmm. And after that, the first 3-year stint in World Superbikes, obviously you came back to BSB with GSC, and obviously Colin Wright he took you on in the team. And I know I've spoke to you about this before, about that being like a massive turning point in your career, and you came back kind of a little bit lacking in confidence, a little bit defeated, and Colin really helped you turn things around, really, and turned you into obviously like what you went on to do after. Do you want to just sort of expand on how, what exactly Colin did for you to
make the difference?
Yeah.
Basically, what happened, there were 2 things happened, right? So at the end of 1998, I rode for Kawasaki that year. I'd had 3 years in Superbikes. I'd lost my confidence, but I'd totally stopped enjoying racing. And at the time, I was 24 years old, 25, and I was like, do you know what? All my mates are out on the piss all the time. They look like they're having a great time. And I'm this stress head who's obsessed with training, hating life. Honestly, I just didn't enjoy racing the bikes, didn't enjoy the travel. This will sound really weird what I'm going to say. But back then, like in the mid-90s, I had no mobile phone or anything. So, I was riding for Italy. I'd fly out to Italy. I'd spend 2 weeks out there on my own in a crappy little hotel, going out with the Italians every night for something to eat. Nobody spoke English. I didn't speak Italian. And racing wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy any part of it. So I'd lost all that. So when I eventually, in 99, got signed up by the GSE team and Colin Wright was the team manager, he taught me two things. One was, well, there were loads of things he taught me, but one was you've got to try and enjoy it. 2, the rider's not always right. So I'd been in teams where I'd met my own plan for the session. I'd come in and say, oh, that's crap. I want this changing. I need a new tyre. And he'd say, riders, you shouldn't always get what you think you want because you don't need it. So like, for example, when I was riding with Colin, I'd come in a session and go, that tyre's shit. And he's like, yeah, no problem. The race is 25 laps and you've done 7. So you're not putting a new tyre in, mate. You have to learn how to ride on that tyre. And he really got that. And the way Colin is, because Chrissy, because obviously you worked with him 2 years ago, was it? And he would take no for an answer. So he sort of beat that out of me. And he also would not let me get away with anything. So he was really strict on me. So we clashed so much in 99. I was in his office more than I was on the track. honestly,
For meetings.
arguing, but like getting bollockings. But do you know what? He was right in the end. You look back and you're like, oh my God, he was so right. And he sort of almost bashed a bit of a brat out of me. He helped me build my confidence, and he was part of me refinding the love of the sport. So yeah, it was huge for me in my career, and what went on after that was fundamentally down to Colin and the team. A gentleman called Daryl Healy, it was his team, was a great man as well, and good mechanics. But do you know what as well? Just, I know I'm rambling, but one thing British riders don't understand: you start racing, it starts to go good, you end up in World Championship racing teams, and then you end up with a load of foreigners, and the fun goes then because you're in. Like literally, when I signed for Ducati, one mechanic spoke English. It's different now, but honestly, one mechanic. So there's no fun, there's no jokes, there's no good atmosphere. It's like a job, and it was miserable. So with the GSE team, I went back to a British team. There were loads of banter, loads of in-jokes, and the fun started. And you both know, as racers, a happy, relaxed rider is a fast rider. If you're not enjoying it, if you're tense, if you're trying too hard, it just doesn't happen, does it?
We're both here sitting here nodding with full agreement. Obviously, a fast rider, a happy rider, it comes together. But I've got a quick question for you. Now, you're talking about your attitude change with that particular crew chief. Now, do you think the paddocks have swapped over in that way? Do you think, is it gone back to that the rider runs it? Or do you think it's more of a team balance? How do you think the attitude within teams are at the moment?
Well, good question. I think it's a real mix. And do you know what I feel like now? I feel like everybody's smarter. Everybody trains better because there's the science behind it. I'm Alex Lowe's manager, and obviously I spend a lot of time with Alex, and I've seen how he's grown, for example. So I see how he operates. And he sort of understood from day one, it's not about a one-off fast lap time. It's about, obviously, doing race distance on tyres. I just think everyone's a bit more experienced. So each garage you went in would work in a different way. Because a lot of it is down to the rider, isn't it? The rider can determine how the session, well, basically how the weekend runs. But the stronger teams, let's just use an example. In Moto 3 and Moto 2, one of the best teams is the IO Racing team, run by a Finnish guy called Aki Ajo. He's actually a nice guy, but he's a real serious bloke. But he runs a good team because he reminds me of Colin Wright. Because he knows how to win. He knows how to win championships. So when young riders join his Moto 3 team, and it doesn't work with everybody, but he's won a lot of world championships. So if the rider's intelligent enough and they can adapt and do it his way, they'll fight for a title. So that's how I sort of see it.
And was it around the sort of time that you came back to BSB that you got involved with Roger Burnett as a personal manager?
No, Roger had been with me since the end of '92. What happened in '92? I went from being like starting the season. Well, actually, it was the end of '91. So at the end of 1991, imagine, so I'd just finished my second year of racing. And at the last race of that year, I set the fastest lap at the power bike race at Brands Hatch. And I went from literally being lapped right at the beginning of the season. And I was lapped, not like I'm exaggerating. I was lapped to setting the fastest lap. And I finished fifth in this race. And then we had a friend, a sponsor, who knew Roger, and he said, you need to get some help and advice off someone. And my dad straight away had said, look, I'm already at my dad said, I was a club rider. I don't know what to do next. Mm-hmm. So we got involved with Roger really early, and he played a massive part in my career. He was a fantastic manager.
Was he sort of pulling the strings a lot behind your full career, like in terms of where you went and what championships you raced in and stuff?
Yeah. Between him and my dad, I didn't really play much of a part in it. You know, obviously we've talked about stuff, but it was like their master plan. So, and obviously we didn't know what we were doing because we just didn't. So Roger he retired at the end of '91, so the timing was perfect. He'd retired. Obviously, for those people that don't know who Roger Burnett is, Roger was a TT winner, won the senior. like a factory Grand Prix rider, 500cc Grand Prix rider for Rothmans Honda in his day, top doer at British level, winning British Superbike championships and all that lot. So really experienced, but a bit different to everybody else. He's like really bright, runs a good PR company and all that lot. So when I said earlier I was lucky certain things happened, it was really lucky getting involved with Roger, because if I'd not got involved with Roger, we wouldn't be having this conversation now. He played that much of an important part in my career.
I seen the video that you put online a couple of days ago where it was your first ever TV interview, and you were saying that Roger had told you had to speak posh, so you had like a thick Burnley accent, but you were doing your best to put on like a posh accent. And I also seen a video where I think you'd been sponsored. Roger had got you like a moisturizer sponsor, and you'd had to pretend to use moisturizer. What's the most embarrassing thing that you, looking back? What's the most embarrassing thing that you sort of had to do to, you know what I mean? Like as part of the job.
Well, it's so funny. I mean, you've pretty much picked the two most embarrassing ones. Right, this is what Roger said. So it's like it was 1992, and he's like, "You sound like a thick northerner." Cheers, Roger. Like I'm like, "Oh, right, great." And he's like, back then, and he was sort of right. If you've got a strong, thick accent, people didn't like accents for some reason. Now, everyone loves accents, and obviously, you are who you are. So, yeah, thank God. And so he was like, "You're gonna have to go to elocution lessons." I'm like, "What's that?" Because genuinely, I didn't know. I'm a lad from Burnley who was a builder. I was a builder for 3 years when I left school. So I'm like, "I don't know what you mean." He's like, "You've got to go to elocution lessons. It's where they teach you how to speak properly." All right, fair enough. Okay, because I was like, I'll do anything. I just want to win. So it's like, so I literally get the yellow pages out, because obviously you've no internet then. Elocution lessons in Burnley, right? Call this woman up.
There'll be how many were advertised in the yellow paper for Burnley?
Well, I'm guessing one. So I go around to this really rough ass house. It was horrible, and I sit down, and she said, "Look, it's whatever it was. It's £5 a lesson, or you can have 5 lessons for 40 quid." So I thought, oh, whatever. No, hang on, I got that wrong. You got 5 lessons for 20 quid. So I'm like, oh, perfect. That sounds like a deal. I said, I'll do 5 lessons then. Anyway, I sat down, and I'm slightly dyslexic anyway as well. So I read slow naturally. I can read, but I read slow. So she had me reading these bloody long paragraphs, all the, as you can imagine, how now, brown cow. And then she'd read it in a posh accent, and then I'd read it. And I swear, right, so I did this one lesson. Anyway, I got home, and my mum and dad were like, "How did you get on?" And I'm like, "I'm not going back. I've paid her." I said, "I've paid her for the 5 weeks." I said, I just can't do that because it was so embarrassing. So that was embarrassing. But the moisturizer one absolutely killed me, because it was like Roger Burnett. He was such a good manager, but he just got this wrong. What he wanted to do is like, the problem with motorcycle racing is it doesn't transcend into like the world media. It's just bike.
Every day.
And it's the number one thing people talk about a lot. They say like, "Oh, when can you break through into getting proper sponsorship?" So Roger tried to do that. So he got me in Cosmopolitan Girls magazines with my shirt off. I quite like that, by the way. But anyway, and just general real shit, embarrassing stuff that in our rough and ready biking world went down like a shit sandwich, basically. So I got the mick taken out of me. Like, literally, remember this. Imagine this. One time, I can't remember what year it was. It might have been 96 or 97. I'd had a good result, right? I think I got a podium at Laguna Seca, and the headline was, at back page of MCN, "Mr. Moisturizer bounces back." And it's typical MCN, because they were nightmares. Because back then, MCN's a lot better now, but back then it was like a proper rag. It was like the Sun. They just wanted a headline, so they'd like try and big you up, then they'd knock you down. But that was like so MCN. Mr. Moisturizer bounces back. You're like, yeah, cheers for that. I just finished 3rd in the World Superbike race, and you're basically taking the piss. Thanks. So there you go.
Here's a quick question. Obviously, with the way the sport's going, like you say, everyone's becoming more professional. Without management? I'm thinking of the question before I even say it here. I'm trying to think of the best way of wording it. I need some lessons, Chrissy. Elocution lessons. Basically, to get forward in this sport, do you need management like you have had?
Do you know what? It would help so much. It just does, because what's happened now with our sport even different from when I started. It's become where the kids are being spotted, scouted at a much earlier age. So if you have got an incredibly talented son who's 14, what management can do is just help save you time to make the right decisions. And that's what Roger did with me a lot. And also, they can hopefully bring, because they've got contacts with sponsors, they can bring some money in your direction, because as you two know better than anyone, and again, even more so now, it's getting out of hand, isn't it? It's bloody expensive to go racing. So if you can get a manager who can save you some time, stop you from making mistakes, bring potential sponsors in, and if they can help you, as in like I have done with Alex over the years by trying to mentor him, as well as doing the
common influence.
Yeah. Exactly, as well as the obvious sorting his contracts out, making sure everything's in line. It's a manager's job. And it's weird. I appreciate Roger Burnett more now I'm retired. At the time, I thought, yeah, Roger's all right. Like not in a cocky way, but now I'm retired and now I manage Alex Lowe's. I realise, bloody hell, Roger was amazing, actually. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without him.
Is it just Alex you manage, or is it a case you wouldn't want to take anyone else on board? Would you prefer just to keep it a one-to-one relationship?
What's happened is I've just ended up in a situation. I've been lucky where I'm really busy. So with the
you are a busy man.
As you know, with the BT job is like it's about 120 to 30 days a year. Obviously not this year, which I love. I live on the Isle of Man. I've got a girlfriend in the UK. I've got the insurance business, which we're going in year 3 now, and that's growing and going well. And I manage Alex Lowe's. And the problem is, if I'm competitive, like you two guys are, I'm really competitive. So if I'm going to do something, I want it to be the best I can be. So if I'm managing someone, I don't want to just take some money off someone and go, yeah, good luck with that, or try this, or I wouldn't have done that. I'm like I'm all hands on deck. So I've got a lot of passion about it. So at the moment, I don't really have time, but I still would. I'm not saying I'll only manage one person. I'm always on the lookout. But hang on, just to finish it. Sorry, just to finish it. This will sound really bad, probably. I have to believe in the person. So I have been approached by quite a lot of people, and if I don't believe 100% that this kid can go all the way, then I sort of think, how am I going to be able to sell that person if I don't believe? Because I'm not actually a good salesman. So I'm like, I have to believe in the person I'm managing. And when I started helping Alex, I watched him race, and I'm like, oh my God, he's so much better than I ever was. This kid has definitely got a chance of winning a world title. I'm convinced of it, but he needs my help, and we're on that long journey, because to win a world championship isn't easy. It takes a lot of years, and as I know, and Alex is on the journey, isn't he?
Well, you've definitely just answered me next question there. It was a case of, is there anyone at the moment in any of the disciplines on tarmac I'm talking about that stands out for you, that you think he is the next Valentino Rossi? Is that okay? You don't have to. Okay, I can understand the professional side of you going, I'm not going to dob any names in. Is there anyone that you think he is the next Rossi? That could be British, Spaniard, Martian.
Yeah.
I don't care.
It's hard. It's so difficult, isn't it? Because in our sport, you're sort of as good as your last race, and you think, I tell you what, this kid's good here, and then all of a sudden they have a few mediocre rounds, and you're like, oh, I'm not too sure. Well, the question is, who's going to beat Marc Marquez, isn't it? Because
exactly, yeah,
exactly. And that's a tricky one, isn't it? We spoke to Brad Binder, me and Gav, on our podcast. He's a really nice kid, as normal as us three. And I mean that genuinely, proper down to earth. And I actually asked him the question, and he sort of avoided answering it, because we talked about some stuff, and then I went, I've got a question for you. How do you beat Marc Marquez? Because basically, if you want to win a MotoGP race stroke championship, you have to beat Marc Marquez. How do you beat him? Because I don't know how to. I've watched enough races. I've commentated on him. How do you beat Marc Marquez? Is that good?
Well, okay, right. One simple, quick answer to it, but it's a case of, what is it? Is it his style or mindset? It's a combination of everything. I know it's such a vague question, but he has such a unique style. He can crash without crashing. Is that what makes him, quite frankly, invincible almost?
Did you watch today, the BT program. Did you watch that Argentina race?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
watched that.
it was completely over the line. He was so aggressive. He ended up just this in itself. You've got to laugh at. Imagine in one race he received 3 penalties. But his will to win is that great. His aggression. I've said this before. The best way of describing it is if you was to build an android now to be the world champion, and you're incredibly technical and scientific, and you can build this fancy robot that's going to take on the world. Well, every attribute that Marquez has, you'd go, right, this robot needs to be really incredibly aggressive. Yeah, it needs to be able to have quicker reactions than any other rider. It needs to have a unique riding style. It needs to have no fear. How do you crash so many times and not just be a little bit tight that next session and think, I'll just do a few laps just to make sure I can feel my rear tyre properly? But it just nothing phases him. So
I'm so surprised, watching his career, that he hasn't had more serious injuries. Because, like you say, the crashes that he's had, because he doesn't have small crashes as well. Some of them high sides that he's had, and you think, I know he's had a little bit of a few problems with his shoulder, but I'm like, in the scheme of things, we were at a chat show with Gav and Dr. Martin Rains, the stats guy, and he was going through the stats of Marquez's crashes and comparing them to Rossi, and you just by the the laws of averages, you would expect him to spanner himself at some point, but he just always seems to get away with it. But like you say, he is amazing to watch, whether you like him personally or not. He's you kind of take away his skills, and just watching that last race, actually, the race with Rossi, Pedrosa, and Stoner at Catalunya, I really wish, if there's one thing that I could see while Marquez is at this peak that he's at, where he's you would have to say he's the best rider of the current crop, I would love to see him on a I'm not saying the Honda's uncompetitive, because I know he can ride it where other people struggle, but I would love to see him on a Suzuki, or imagine Marquez on a KTM, how good the racing would be, just as a sort of as a spectacle for MotoGP. I think because watching Rossi on that Yamaha, where it was clearly slower on the straights, I'm not saying it wasn't as good bike, because obviously an all-round package, but it was clearly slower on the straight. It just made the racing that tight and that exciting. And I just, if I could have one pick, I would have put Marquez on a KTM. I think that would make MotoGP so entertaining.
Yeah, could not agree more. But I can't help but say this. I think he'd win. I just do. Everything I've seen, what he's achieved, every session in weird mixed conditions, there are no weaknesses. It's that good. I think he'd win on the KTM. It's bizarre.
You're friends with all these rock stars. Why don't you just get them in the pub one night? You know what I mean? And just right, let's put some bike brands in a hat, and you all just hand the hat round and just see who pulls what. That would be dead entertainment. That'd be fantastic entertainment. Put a word in there.
I know he signed a big contract with Honda, so he will be stuck there for quite a while. But as the organisers, if they could have engineered him going to say KTM, I personally think that would have been brilliant for the sport. But hey, we'll see. And hopefully Quartararo, Rins, over the next few years, hopefully they'll be able to take it to him. But going back to your career anyway, we kind of got up to the BSB stage, and obviously going into 2000, that must have been a glorious time for you to reminisce on, a hell of a season, obviously, in BSB, the World Superbike cards. Obviously, that first, after doing 3 years at World Superbikes, to do a wild card on your BSB bike and to take your first World Superbike win, that must have been a special day.
Oh, it was. But do you know what happened, Chrissy? A lot of it that was then year 10. I've been racing them for 10 years. And everything came together but then. Experience, confidence, knowledge of setting a bike up, and how to cope in all different situations, and being with a good team, having a good manager. So it all came together, and that's why I say to a lot of people, I think most riders prime is around 27, age 27. The next 3 or 4 years are your golden years, and it was for me. I'm the perfect example of that. So, yeah, it was an incredible year. The fact winning the British Championship was really important to me, meant a lot. But what was like the number one was to win as a wild card was something I never thought I'd achieve. And to win at Donington, which is one of my favourite tracks, and Brands Hatch, to win 2 races in the same year, because I was so bitter and angry that my World Superbike career had not gone according to plan, and I got a lot of stick. I got quite a lot of stick off British fans. MCN weren't on my side. The paddock, it was like the paddock didn't like me. I got the piss taken out of me a little bit, and it was just nice to go back and go, have a bit of that. You know what I mean? Middle finger up. You can imagine, though, have a bit of that. And I was so aggressive on the track. I was letting my brake off in every practice session, pushing people wide, just loving it, because it was like, now we're playing on it's like a level playing field now. I'm not a young kid with no experience. I've got all the, it's like I'm in a gunfight, and finally I've got a proper gun and I know how to use it. And it just felt amazing. And people just to add a little bit at the end, I'd never liked Aaron Sly, right? He'd always been an arsehole to me, completely. And just being on track with people like that and just stuffing them so hard. And stuffing them and then looking over his shoulders if to go, yeah, what are you doing? Get out of my way. Great memories. I've got goosebumps saying it.
Mm-hmm. I've actually just watched the final race while I've been waiting for the interview. I've just been going through YouTube watching like random videos, and one of the videos I came across was the final race in 2000 at Donington Park when you took the championship. Obviously with Chris Walker, he was like lining like 3rd or 4th, and his engine blew up. And obviously it's one of the most famous BSB races, really, with obviously what happened and Chris walking away crying and everyone shaking, like all the marshals shaking his hand and stuff. And then the track invasion and the you being on the podium, I don't know how many fans were there that day, but it looked absolutely rammed, and that must be a mega memory for you.
It's bizarre. It's because that day still to this day doesn't seem real, because I'd turned up that weekend, I'd crashed the race before at Brands Hatch, I'd lost the front on the wet, and I'd thrown away the British Championship. I was like, whatever, I can't remember what it was, something like 14 points. It might be, I don't know what, behind
12 points.
12 was it? Yeah. But it seemed like a lot. And to go there, win the first race, and then in that second race, it was just all bizarre. And literally, and I promise I'm not exaggerating this to sound funny, 90% of the crowd, and it might be 95, were Chris Walker fans. I wasn't that popular. Everybody loved Chris. He was because he'd been in Britain for a lot of years. He'd finished second for the previous 2 or 3 seasons, and he was the fans' favourite, And I get it, but it was just so funny to like be lucky to win in it, and then see everyone was so upset. But it didn't bother me one bit. Obviously, it didn't, because me and Walker hated each other. There's no point in lying about it. It weren't like, oh no, we're rivals, but there was a mutual respect. No. I couldn't stand the man, and he couldn't stand me. The just difference with him, he was clever. I was stupid. Any chance I got to slag him off, I did. And he'd always go, oh no, Neil's a great rider. And he'd always say the right thing, and then I'd look a dick. But we're friends now, by the way. I just want to just put a line underneath that. And I've got a lot of respect. We've laughed and joked about it. We've both had plenty of beers together, reminiscing. And he brought the best out in me, and I brought the best out in him. And what that did for us both was it really projected our careers forward.
Well, you keep answering my questions I've got written down here.
Sorry,
it's a case of no, it's brilliant. No, it's brilliant. Hey, you're making the job easy, young'un. It's a case of, was he your biggest rival then? Like, on and off the track, was he the one that you just thought, he boils my piss every time I look at him? Was he that one?
Every time I looked at him, you're right. Like, literally. And he was just good. He was so clever and manipulative. He was a little weasel, and I just couldn't cope with it. I just wanted to smack him on the nose. But what you didn't see, and what no one's ever seen, is that in 99 and in 2000, he was so dirty to me on track through every practice session. At any opportunity that didn't get caught on camera, So he'd wind me up really well, and I always took the bait. So yeah, oh god, fun. What? But it's funny looking back into it, and imagine that feeling coming out of the last corner with about 4 laps to go in the race, and I could smell smoke as I come towards the last corner. So I'm breaking into Goddard's. I'm like, I can smell smoke, like oil. That and that feeling, and you're paranoid. Is it me? And then I come out of Goddard's onto the start and finish straight, and I'm all tucked in. I glance at my pit board. And there's a marshal stood there with a white board with a big black number 2 on it. And I glanced at it and I'm like, who's number 2? Like, because my brain just wasn't working. Mm-hmm. I'm like, fuck, it's Walker. They're giving him you've got a problem, you have to stop. Because he was behind me in the race.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that slow process of me thinking, hang on a minute, it's Walker. And then the next lap I go past and he still stood there with a number 2. And the team is waving me to slow down, and I'm battling for the win with James Hayden, which I've just got to say is not an easy thing anyway. Whenever you rode with James, it was always, he just raced on red mist always. Great rider, but very aggressive. So yeah, I was being told to calm down, and I'm thinking, oh my god, I think what's going on? I think I've won this, so that's basically the story.
Do you know, throughout that year, was there ever any like sort of behind closed doors encounters with Chris where like what nothing was on camera or anything, but where you like maybe had to go to each other, or any, like, I don't know, obviously social media wasn't a thing then, so it wasn't like that, but was there anything that like sort of any stories from behind closed doors?
Well, they kept us well apart. Everybody did. And Colin Wright, you can imagine what he was like. He's like, I'll try and do his accent, fucking keep away from that prick. Like, and he'd be on at me all the time. Just keep away, because he knew Chris was clever and he'd get under my skin. Yeah. But I'll tell you a funny one. Well, it wasn't for me. So we turned up at Silverstone, and it had been Upton Park the weekend before where we ran into each other. So we turned up, and basically before the weekend started, the organisers got us in the office and said, "You two need to calm down. Listen, we're watching you closely. If any of you put a foot wrong, we'll penalise you." So it's like, yeah, no problem. So I went out in practice, and every time I tipped into a corner, Walker was there letting his brake off, playing all these usual games, and I was getting more and more worked up. Anyway, that weekend, I had a much faster bike than him, and he had a bike that seemed to turn and handle better than mine. At Silverstone, the way that track is, I had an advantage. So I won the first race pretty easy. Or was it the second race? But anyway, I think it was the first race. And then in the second race, he knew he couldn't beat me, really. So he just let the brake off and ran me, T-boned me completely and knocked me off. So as my bike stalled, so as I go to pick my bike up, all the marshals love Chris Walker. Everybody had a Chris Walker hat on. So they weren't really helping me. So as I'm walking back, like towards the marshal's post, I'm shouting and swearing, and the whole crowd were booing me. It was the most bizarre. and then I walked all the way back into the paddock, and everyone was going, that'll teach you. Like, what? I was honestly, I've never been so livid. And I actually shouted at the team owner's wife, because I got into the paddock and I saw her, and I went, what are they going to do? Why aren't they black flagged Walker? Clearly he's just T-boned me. And she went, oh, no, it looked like a 50-50 racing incident. And I just started swearing at her, just like a madman. But when you're passionate, you know what it's like with your passion, and you just, you sort of lose control.
Mm. I'll tell you what, so just listening to you, you had such an embedded idea that you were not popular. Is that not fair to say at this particular point?
I wasn't.
You weren't. So
no.
It's incredible to see you on the telly now. You are literally the media forefront of motorcycle racing. So at what point did you think, yeah, I'm not very popular? I'll tell you what, I'll go into media. At what? I know I've just jumped pretty much your career here into probably one of the most outstanding points of your actual lifestyle. But how did you think, tell you what, fuck it, I'm going on the telly,
But I didn't really ever think that. It just happened when one of the big fears for all riders, or it certainly was for me, is what I'm going to do when I finish. So the TV thing just happened. But just to backtrack a bit, I did become. It's easy to say you're not popular. It's bad to say you're popular. I became more popular then the next few years, because actually what changed for me was those wildcard races, and then the next few years in World Superbikes, I managed to turn it around. Or I don't know if I managed to turn it around. It turned around because I didn't really plan. You can't turn it around, can you? People either like it or they don't. So, so I became more popular. So
yeah, so obviously staying with the same team and going back to World Superbikes and finishing fifth in the first year, then up to third, and then obviously when was it Colin Edwards and Troy left for MotoGP.
Yeah.
And then obviously that kind of opened the doors up in 2003. And just looking through the stats there, winning the first 11 out of the 12 races, like in World Superbikes, that must have, it's really like unheard of, really, like that, a dominance of that stature. Were you just feeling like on top of the world and just everything sort of clicked together?
Yeah, what happened was the year before was my best year riding a motorcycle. 2002, I've never ridden a bike so well. And I finished third in the world, but I was on Dunlop tyres against the two like factory Michelin boys of Bayliss and Edwards. But if I'd have been on the same tyres as them, it would have been a three-way battle for the title. So when I'd always been on Dunlops, so when I tested the Michelins the first time, when I jumped on the 999, I hated the 999 bike. It's like, oh my God, this is a turd compared to my old bike. But the tyres are off the scale. Because what they did, the tyres, they didn't have more grip. They just stayed consistent. Where a Dunlop had more grip at the start. And then by the time 25 laps were up, you were a second and a half down. Where the Michelin started, you might be half a second or 0.3 of a second slower than a Michelin. Sorry. You might be 0.3 of a second faster than a Michelin, but then as soon as it started tailing off, which would be about 5 laps, there'd be a crossover. So the Michelin was just consistent. I'll never forget, my second test on the 999 was at Valencia, and I did a race run, and this is just me riding around, and I did my fastest lap on my own on the last lap, and I'm like, oh my God, like, so then I just had all this confidence that I were on the best tyres, and that's what happened, basically. I just was really confident.
Translated that on the track, and obviously went on to win the World Superbike Championship that year. And then from then going over to MotoGP, obviously not a very good team. That race was on, I think it was last week, wasn't it? The opening round where Rossi wins on the Yamaha, and you retire out. Was that on the Ducati as well?
Yeah. We were so unlucky. I've talked about having lucky breaks in my career. And I always say luck plays a part. When people say luck doesn't play a part in someone's career, they don't understand. Because luck does. And I was so unlucky because I ended up signing for the Louis Dantine team. And they got a big sponsor visa. And literally, just before the first round, they just went, oh no, we're not sponsoring the team. Or they delayed payments, and then they basically didn't pay. So the team would have had potentially, let's say, £5 million off visa, and they had no money. The team had no money. So I did the first test on the bike, and that was the bike I rode all year. They couldn't put any parts on it. Things were leaking and dropping off, and we got to Phillip Island, and the Michelin man came to the garage and said, look, I'm really sorry, Neil, but you're not going to be able to ride this weekend because Lewis owes us 25 grand or whatever it was. So we're not giving you any tyres. So we missed the first day. There was so much shit like that you can't believe. I wouldn't mind that sort of thing going on, but you've got to remember at that time, you're trying to beat Valentino Rossi. You're against the best in the world. And I was riding well. It wasn't like, oh, well, I'm at the end of my career. Let's be honest. I'm sort of done. I weren't thinking like that at all. I was really ready and, genuinely thinking I could mix it with him. That it was like typical in Jerez. I was battling with Nicky Hayden for 6th in the race, and the bike just stopped. I broke down so many times. You're just like, oh my God, imagine if I'd have been on a factory Honda, what I could have done. I'm not going to sit here and say I'd have been world champion. I'm not. I'm realistic, but I'd have been in the mix. There's a handful of riders I'd look at and go, yeah, bloody hell, they were well special. But the rest, I'd look at and think, well, yeah, could have beat them no problem. So
well, you can see obviously like if you're winning World Superbike championships, like you from history you can sort of see how that translates to MotoGP, and if when people have been at the front of World Superbikes and then got on good bikes in MotoGP, they've always done a good job.
Yeah.
Obviously, after that year, you then went over to the States, racing in America. What was I know the scene there's. They're trying to kind of rebuild the racing scene over like Moto America now, but back then AMA, what was it like in terms of the track and the competition, and like what was the racing like out there?
Do you know it was great. It was still really healthy back then. So all the manufacturers were involved. So everybody had factory teams, and America's a massive market, as you can imagine. There's 300 million people live there, so it's huge. So there's a lot of money pumped into it by the manufacturers because it was still that you win on Sunday, you sell on Monday sort of attitude. Again, and it's not an excuse. You two can have a laugh at me afterwards when bloody hell there were some excuses flying around, right? But get ready, drum roll. I was unlucky again. Here we go. So I was right. So what happened is in 2005, Suzuki brought out the new GSXR 1000, and it just dominated. Do you remember Troy Corser destroying everyone in the World Superbike Championship? Well, what happened was I turned up at my first test on this factory Ducati. The bike was good, the team was good, and I tested on my own, with my teammate Eric Bostrom, and I'm faster than him. Never been to this track. I'm faster than Eric. I'm lap record pace, and genuinely, I mean this. I'm like, I will win the American Championship. Like if that's my first test. I've never been to this, and it was a weird track. So, and then we did another couple of tests, and then I did my first pre-season test with everybody else, and I was 2 seconds slower than Matt Mladen. He was 2 seconds under the lap record, and the new bike was that good, and it was faster, it stopped better, it changed direction, and we got destroyed, unfortunately. So that sort of tainted what happened in America, because if that bike hadn't come out, I'd have battled to win the championship. And instead, I was battling for third all the time. But also, I was racing against some quick lads. So then, obviously, Ben Spees was there. And I got really friendly with Ben. And I couldn't believe how fast he was. And I watched him grow over the years I was there. And I said, when he entered World Superbikes, I talked to loads of people. And I said, just watch this kid. I said, I don't think he'll win in his first year, the championship. But he'll win loads of races. But I said, I've never seen anyone be so fast over one lap. So I said he'll get loads of pole positions, but he won't win the championship. Anyway, he went on to win the championship. He destroyed everybody, didn't he? So
yeah, I remember that, 2009.
And imagine going to tracks he'd genuinely not been to, and he was fastest in free practice one against some proper doers in World Superbikes.
Yeah, it's unimaginable, really. Obviously, you mentioned Matt Mladen there, and he's been in the news recently for. I presume you'll have already seen it. He was a big rival of yours back then, and obviously seen him in the news now.
Yeah, it's obviously what I'm reading in the news is horrendous, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's off the scale. Really hard to get my head around. Because as a man, I didn't like him at all. He was an arse. He was arrogant. As a rider, he was incredible. But he was a family man. He was always at the races with his kids, always there with his wife. So with these allegations, it blew me away. You're just like...
Totally unexpected.
Totally, like, you're just like, that can't be right. He can't have, been messing around with young kids. But... I don't know any more about it than you. All I know is the man I saw, he was a dick and he was hard to beat, but he was a family man. So it's weird. I hope it's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of dicks, I've been listening to your podcast, and you were saying about how much of a knob Iannone is when you've been in the paddock and like interviewed him and stuff. Aside from Iannone, like while you were racing and as a commentator, who's like who's the biggest knob that you've come across in the paddock?
Oh, that's easy to answer.
Look for choice.
Steve Brogan. I'm joking.
Actually, I rang Steve yesterday and had a big crack with him, and he was saying you ask Neil why he only ever rings us when he's bored driving to your dad's house.
Oh, tight. That's tight, but very true. Oh my God, like Brogy is officially, Steve Brogan is my best friend in racing, and I've got some good friends. I genuinely love the bones of that man, and he is one of my only mates I can call, and literally we will talk like a pair of girls for 2 hours, and I just love him. So no, he's definitely not a dick. I weren't too keen on Aaron Slight. I mentioned him. Anthony Gobert was a complete bellend. But he was just you see what's happened to him in his life. I mean, he's a proper down and out. The last time he was in the news, he got beaten up last year. He's a proper smackhead. He'd mugged an old lady. He was working at Subway in Australia, but he was just a complete alcoholic. Like literally, he would get off his bike and he was leathered. And he was the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde character. He was shy. He wouldn't say boo to a goose. Wouldn't look at you, and then he'd had a drink, and you'd hear him before you'd see him, and he'd be rah through the paddock on his pulling wheelies, doing donuts, spraying everyone's motorhomes. Just absolute knobhead.
But yeah.
Well,
I tell you what. Before we let you go, and obviously let you get back to family life. Here's a question. You were in the Midlands at the moment. How did you get trapped over here then? Oh, it's with a girlfriend, isn't it?
Girlfriend. If you could, hey, listen, come on.
You're going to get trapped.
Stupid, am I? If you're going to self-isolate, you might as well self-isolate with your bird. We the lads.
I know you. I know you've been mentioning about being in with Vic for isolation. Is that obviously as bike racers we know that it's against the code of conduct for a bike racer to be punching in a relationship. Like we know that just doesn't happen. But I've got to say, if you weren't a bike racer, you'd be doing extremely well for yourself there. How did you meet Vic?
I love that. I've seen your missus as well, so respect there, Chris. Team punching.
That's the one. But
hey, not wrong with that. I'll tell you exactly how I met my girlfriend. I met her online. I love this. It's a funny story. I was doing track days with Focused Events, and Neil, the photographer. You know Neil, don't you? Yeah. And Neil, the photographer, was he'd met his girlfriend online, and we were talking about it. And I'm like, oh, I've been single for about 18 months. It's like, go online. I'm like, do I look desperate? Like typical massive ego. And it's like, no, you dick. It's not like that now. It's not like that. Everyone's online. So I'm like, oh, I'll give it a go. But I said, I'm a technophobe. So he set up my page. And before you ask, it wasn't a picture of me holding the World Championship trophy above my head.
I was going to say, I can just imagine your Tinder bio, British Superbike champion, World Superbike champion, kind of a big deal. Who goes up with?
Kind of a big deal in capital letters, Hashtag not skint. Like you can just absolute knob. So no. So I basically just like normal pictures, and I said I work in the motorcycling industry. But what I did, because I was doing track days at the time around the UK, so I didn't like just go for one area, because I thought if I meet someone I really like, I don't care where they live, I can move about and all that sort of stuff. So Victoria, my lovely girlfriend, and I am well punching. She was like I've been on there a month and I met her. And according to her, right now, I don't know whether to believe this or not, but she'd just gone on, and I was her first ever like encounter. So that sounds like a lie to me, but anyway. So the next question is, how long before you told her you were like this big, fast, famous bike racer?
Yeah, well, did you have a big crack, and then did you just take her out for food or something?
5 minutes, 10 minutes in.
Basically, yeah. No, I walked in and like coughed and went, I used to be a world champion. No. You've seen that World Championship trophy. I carry it around with me, so obviously, no.
You're full of 50s in or something like that. Come
yeah,
on, let's
just going. Oh, that must be mine. No, I did what everybody else does on the first day. I was nervous as hell. What happened was, right, so I was staying at the Malmaison. I thought, right, Chrissy, you know me. I am as cheap as they come. I am the world's cheapest man, right? So I've never stayed in the fancy hotels if I'm paying. So I said to her, I've been at Donington Park doing a track day. So I said, I'm at Donington on Wednesday. Why don't we meet? And she's like, oh, yeah, we could meet in Birmingham. So I'm like Googling like fancy hotels. So I stayed at the Malmaison Hotel, and we were supposed to meet at 5:30. So like at 5:30, I walk into the bar, but she was there before me, and it caught me off guard because she was better looking in real life than the pictures, and she looked nice in the pictures. So then I went all nervous and was rambling more than I am now. So it was pretty funny. But we just, it's like you either hit it off or you don't, and we just were like instantly just hit it off, and I just couldn't stop talking about myself. Oh, I'm joking.
And obviously you're like based over in the Isle of Man, living over there. How do you find life over there? And like, obviously with the racetrack there and everything, I presume you've done a few fast laps in some cars.
Yeah, I've done a few parade laps as well. I've done about 3 parade laps now. It's something else. It is. I still can't, even though I've done parade laps, I can't imagine what it feels like still. Like,
did you ever want to do it though?
No, I didn't. Only because at the time I was so obsessed with short circuit racing, trying to achieve my dream, my goal, and everything I did was around that. So it was never even something I thought about. But all my mates did it. Like, I was like really close to David Jeffries, and lots of very, very good friends raced there. And obviously I'm very close to John McGuinness, and absolutely love it. And I'm not a TT hater by a long shot, as you can imagine. But I still can't get my head around it. I can't imagine what it feels like to go that fast for so long. Because every time I've done my parade lap, it sort of scares me a bit, and I know where I'm going. You know what I mean? It's something else. It really is.
Oh God! Wait, just do it, man. You must be friends with the government by now. You tax dodging little twit. So you must say just like, right, there's a couple of
over there.
Bollocks to you. There's only one reason, right? Hold on. Doesn't Alex Lowe's live over there?
No.
You told him what? Sam Lowe's. One of the Lowe's is listening to you anyway. Come to the Isle of Man. Don't pay tax.
No, it's not like that. But it's not. No, well, if I was doing that, I'd have moved back as soon as I stopped racing, because I earn absolute jack shit now. No, do you know what? My kids are there. My son's 11. My daughter's 16. It's what a place to bring kids up. I mean, there is literally no crime. I laugh all the time. This is, I promise you, this is what happened. Like, just before the lockdown, when I was over there, I was driving down the prom. Isle of Man news came on, and it was on about Trump, and it was Trump talking serious on about. It was Trump just rambling. Anyway, that was headline. Number 2 was, there's been a report over the weekend a car was attempted to be broken into in the Ramsey area in between the hours of 3:30 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. And I'm like, oh my God, we've just gone from like world news Trump to this car wasn't nicked. Nothing. No one's been injured. No one stole anything. There was an attempted car robbery. Not as in at gunpoint. Someone's tried to nick a car and it's gone wrong. I just thought, oh my God, I love the Isle of Man. That's like, it's brilliant, isn't it?
That's mate. I mean, I've only been over a few times, but I absolutely love the island. It's such a cool place. Do you have is there much of a social life over there? Have you got many mates? And obviously, there's quite a few people from the biking world that base themselves over there. But do you just go out on the trial bikes, or is there much of a? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, do you know when I first moved over there, I felt like it was at its best for me, because then I was a professional racer. So I used to get to spend a lot of time there, because he'd go home after every race. And me and Hizzy were really close, and he knew every track and trail, so we'd go enduro riding. And when I moved over there in 98, Dougie Lampkin moved over there. And we became very good friends. We actually bought apartments next door to each other, like we were next door neighbours. So imagine having Hizzy and Dougie Lampkin, James Toseland, David Knight, and we'd all go to a motocross track and just think we were heroes. So many good times. And Gavin Hunt, who you guys know from back in the day. And do you know what? Actually, it's a good night out. The problem is there's only one nightclub properly, really, in Douglas. So you end up in that situation where if you're single, you can soon end up going, oh, God, it's a bit awkward, this. You know I'm going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, mega. And just to finish off your whole career, I was actually stood at Graham Hill Bend in 2010 for when the crash that kind of ended things on the Rob Mack Yamaha.
I was flying.
We were flying, literally. And obviously I brought out a shoulder injury, and you sort of called an end to your career then. Did you... I've always wondered, like, after having such a buzz and an adrenaline rushed sport, how did you find you sort of turning the taps off and did you find a replacement for the buzz, or did you sort of just accept that, it was all that the racing was done and sort of just moved on to other things?
No, I think I found it exactly the same as most sports people find it, that there's a massive hole instantly, because I'd raced bikes since I was like 9-10 years old, and I'd raced every year, and I was 36, 37 when I retired. So it's your life, isn't it? It's your backbone. It's everything you do, everything you plan around. So when I stopped, I instantly got really down. Not instantly, actually. I slowly got down over about a 6-month period. I was on the Isle of Man. It's quiet. I was training every day because I didn't know what to do. It was weird. I just carried on training. Like, oh, well, you got to train, because I had nothing else to do. And I found myself, I said, it sounds rude this, but I turned into my ex-wife. I was busy doing nothing. I would fill my day. I'd go to the gym. I'd then meet someone for coffee. I go, oh, hang on, I've got to go to the post office. Oh, I'm bloody busy today. And I'd done, basically, you get to the end of the day, you've done nothing. And actually, that's not rewarding at all. And mistakenly, I genuinely sat back and thought, that phone will ring eventually. Somebody will offer me something great. And the reality is what I already knew in life. It doesn't actually ring. And actually, if you want anything, you have to go to it. You have to make it happen. So I found it really difficult. And actually, one of the people that helped me was Neil Mackenzie, who I'd always been very good friends with. And he probably doesn't even realise it at the time, but he made a massive difference. I was down in the dumps. It was coming to the end of that year, and that was 2010. And he said, "Why don't you ever go to track days?" And I was like, "Track days? Like, as if I'm going to enjoy that? I can't see." Because I'd never been on a track day. I thought, I'm not going to enjoy teaching on track days, surely. Anyway, I went to my first track day at Almeria with focused events and had the best 4 days I'd had all year. Couldn't believe how much fun it was. And actually, for the first time in my life, I was riding bikes on track with no pressure, having fun and getting drunk at night. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never done this. This is what riding bikes is about. And it's funny, that was that. Then the next part of my career was I did track days for about 5 years and absolutely loved it.
That's kind of where I properly met you, out in Almeria, because I was kind of doing I wouldn't say a gap year, but it was like in between sixth form and university. I spent like about 6 months out there working for focused events and doing. It was you kind of got the job for us with Kev and set us up, and I was like living in the hotel, and I was out on track all day doing the hotel runs and everything. And it's like really fond memories for me that I really enjoyed my time out there. And obviously Steve Brogan Steve's still going out there, and it's funny because after years and years of racing and going at the paddocks and stuff, like my dad and my mechanic and stuff have started doing the track days, going out and having the holidays and that, and it is great crack. But well, just to finish things, I've just got a few quick fire questions.
Yep.
And then we'll get going.
Is it like my crap quick fire questions that I ask?
Sort of. So first one is for a spectator, if you were to advise the best Grand Prix of the year to go and watch, which one would you pick?
I'd go. It's a bit an obvious one. It's Mugello.
Cool. Second one, just a one-word answer.
Yeah.
Right, and you can interpret this whichever way you like. Who is the better rider, Johnny Ray, Cal Crutchlow?
Johnny Ray.
Good. And if you're organising a night out with the lads, you can take 5 lads from the race, and so either racers, mechanics, whatever, people that you work with at BT, just whoever. So you've got to take 5 lads for like a stag do type night out, like a mega sesh. Who's the 5 people you would pick and why?
That's a good question. That's one I'm going to steal off you. I like that one. 5's a bit too many, but because I don't have that many friends. But well, obviously, Brody is 100% going.
Yeah.
Gavin Emmett, who I work with, who I just love, who's hilarious and just so much fun. James Hayden. I've not ever had a bad evening with him. if you go out drinking, well, I've had lots of bad ones because
We've actually got James Hayden lined up for next week on the podcast, so
brilliant.
You'll have to tell us some good questions for him.
James lives his life. Or if you go on a night out or for some beers, it's like his racing career. It's just all action, full on, over the limit, a mess. So definitely James Hayden. I love James. I've not seen him for ages actually as well. I hardly ever see him. He's like, I'll see him like once every 2 years. Let me think. This will sound bad. I'm not doing it for like sympathy vote or anything like weird, but David Jeffries, if I could, God rest his soul. Yeah. The amount of laughs I had with him, the amount of times I was in tears because of his happy-go-lucky, bizarre personality. He was something else, was David. He really was special, and pretty much didn't drink. He was just one of them high on life. He used to just drink milk, loads of milk. You can just picture him necking milk. It was funny. He was always on a diet, and then he'd be like necking pints of milk. I'd be like, "What are you doing, mate? You're trying to lose weight." But anyway, right. And fifth one, I'm probably going to go. Oh, it's a really tricky question because you end up leaving out loads of people. I'll probably choose. Oh, it's an easy one actually. Sam Lowes. Even though I manage his brother Alex, if Alex is listening, they'll be well pissed off because Sam is officially loose, but he's the most generous person. If Sam had got 10 grand in his pocket, he'd just give it to you. He's quite a unique individual. This Sam, he's a lovely lad, so I'll go with Sam.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like a good night out, like, to be fair. So yes, well, and I tell you what, I know you always ask about who's your favourite BT pundit. Yeah. So aside from yourself, who would you go with?
At BT.
Yeah.
Oh, Gav. It's a man crush. When you just you really get on with someone.
Oh my God!
He's a star man.
I'm not very good at accents, but I'm going to give one a go, and you've got to try and guess who it is, right? So
go on.
It's one of your colleagues. So it's Valley. That was an exhilarating race. Talk me through it.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
Is that the tall guy?
It was supposed to be Simon Crayford. Terrible at accents. Simon Crayford.
Yeah.
After the race.
You're worse at accents than me.
I know. I was going to say I've been laughing at your accents, but I tell you what. Just before you can give your podcast a plug, so gas it out. And I would highly recommend it. It's really good crack, and I presume you've got some good guests lined up for it.
Yeah. It's funny with podcasts because it's not like I don't feel like we're in competition with everybody else's and all that lot. And I always say to anyone, listen to everyone's podcasts. We are lucky because we've got some good contacts with the GP riders and stuff. So It'll be easier at race meetings actually to get people. But yeah, we've got. It'd be exact same as you guys. I guess you've sat down and you just write the golden list, don't you? And go, I tell you what, if we could just get any of these at any time. So we did Brad Binder yesterday, who's just like a really nice guy. Anyway, so I think Gav's going to edit that, so that'll be out next week sometime. And I don't know who else. I want to get Whittam. Have you guys done Whittam?
Yeah, we went to the airfield, Huddersfield Airport, and did that. That was a proper good laugh.
Oh, he's one of my favourite people. Oh, God, I forgot Whittam for a night out. Oh my God.
He's so funny, just off the cuff, and his stories, his crack. Yeah, it is mega, isn't it?
Well, his stories are just, you're like, that can't be real, but they are, aren't they? He's just the stuff he's done and that's happened to him. He's such a unique individual. I love James.
I really enjoyed the podcast that you did with Guy, but obviously the his connection line wasn't great. So if you could get over and do another one with him, but like in person, I think that would be great. I know me and Dom were speaking about this yesterday, and we were quite surprised that, I thought it was a really good question about what's like the best thing he's ever done on two wheels, because obviously he's done everything.
Yeah,
I was really surprised that it was like a push bike race, considering that and I know me and Dom were speaking about this, and like obviously even like you've done a parade lap around the TT, and just to watch, in my head, I just can't understand like how anything on a push bike could come close to setting off down Bray Hill.
But that's
he's
Guy,
a unique character, isn't he?
Yeah, that's Guy. And I was devastated actually when he said he'd agreed to do it, and then obviously when we were on the call, I just thought, oh, it's such a shame, because that took Gav over a week to send to some sound experts to get it so it was clearer. Actually, when you're on the phone to him, you couldn't quite hear what he was saying, and we got cut off so many times, and I just thought, oh, that was crap, really, to say what it could be. So hopefully we can go around to his house at some point, sit down in front of him with a cup of tea, and just have a bit of a laugh.
Spot on. Well, like I say, we're really, really, obviously this has went on a bit longer than we were expecting, but really, really appreciate your time. And I know you've had a busy day as it is. So yeah, thanks so much. And obviously whenever this coronavirus pisses off, we'll look forward to catching up at a racetrack. And
Sounds good.
keep it up with the podcasts and the live stuff on BT Sport. Really enjoying it. And we'll catch up soon. Thanks very much, Neil.
Hey, thanks for having me on. And listen, to you two, good luck with if there is any racing this year, because obviously you've still got a job to do on that front. And whatever happens, if there is no racing, good luck next year. And if I can ever help in any way, shape or form, just as a mate, then give us a shout.
No, thank you very much, Neil. Cheers, mate.
Thanks very much, and take care.
And
See you in a bit.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, bye. So massive thanks to Neil for joining us on the UK's #1 motorcycle racing podcast.
Oh, well played, Chrissy. Well played. Obviously, yeah, they've got their own podcast, but we're not going to announce that because you got to keep listening to this one. You're all amazing. You're all amazing.
Self-certified UK #1 podcast.
Self-titled. Hey, self-love's the only love sometimes, Chrissy.
But, so you got much crack for this week? You got any work booked in or out?
Yeah, I've got a little bit of work. By a little bit, I mean
emergency.
2 days. Yeah, of emergency work. So obviously stuff I can't wait till after the lockdown. But it's some work's better than no work, and obviously I'm in a lucky position just to even get a little snippet of that, which is great. Don't get me wrong, I'd rather be back to full work full time to get the cheddar in. But hey, that's obviously we've all got to play our part, Chrissy. And speaking of playing our part, we've got a little dedication, haven't we? A little dedication. Now, before we jump into this, right, I asked Sugar Tits himself, right? You know, we keep mentioning him on the pod, and he's one of our favourite motocross dads. And the best thing is, right, I said 3 bullet points, just a quick dedication to how, well, and his son is genuinely future, he is even now a huge a scarily fast, talented motocross rider. And I said, oh, could you send over a couple of bullet points? But obviously he bottled it and messaged you. It must have been, we said, God, could you just list his career? Honestly, and obviously without being big-headed, how many, 3 pages? That just shows how successful he is for 10-year-old. You know what I mean?
With this being episode 48, I like Dom's just said, our good friend little Hayden Stat runs the number 48. So we thought we'd do him a quick dedication and just a little bit of a shout out on the podcast. So
what's Sugar Tits? That's Hayden's dad, Sugar Tits. What's his name again? Craig. I keep forgetting that. That's terrible, isn't it? Craig, Sugar Tits. So anyway, yes, because he's race number 48, you were
48,
saying. 48,
So obviously this episode 48, so we said, for a while we've said we'll keep it and do a little shout out for him. But he's 10-year-old, he's already British champion, riding a 65 at the moment, and he was an auto British champion. And he won the Northeast 65 championship, but he races in the national things. So obviously there's no racing going on at the moment, but he's, like you say, he's a great young talent. And certainly when I've been out with him on the motocross, I'm out on a 450 and he comes flying past me. So
it's mental, isn't it? But you see, what's good about him is, obviously, if we've got any hardcore motocross fans who listen to this pod, he seriously is worth keeping an eye out on the track, because and what impresses me about him is he's such a young lad, but his attitude, you know what I mean? And even just speaking to a couple of people, saying, oh, you know what's his attitude like? And, when he's coming around a lap people, and all the time, and people come like, oh, did you lap my lad? And Hayden's like, no, I don't think so. He's very humble in what he's doing. Very humble. Very switched on.
I've heard he's quite handy with an air rifle as well. On the rumour mill.
I tell you what, right, I went round, this is a while ago, and I like, oh, hello, son, you all right? And nobody. So he came out the door with a Nerf gun, them foam things. He went, hello, and shot me clean in the eye from round about 10 foot away. And I'm like, I'm in this estate going, if I bray this 10-year-old, am I going to get beaten up myself? No, he's a hell of a shot, man. He's got his eye on the prize, but no, he's but like I say, he's definitely got a future within his discipline, massive future in it, and his parents do a cracking job of keeping him level, especially after he's good friends with us, his dad, isn't he? And he's sugar tits himself. He's he's salt of the earth. He really is salt of the earth, and he's hey Chrissy. He's a lovely, lovely man.
Yeah,
he's a lovely, lovely man.
Catchphrase in. But before we wrap things up, massive thank you to our sponsors for the show,
Irish Bob,
the Irish Bob at the Machine Shop down in Hinckley. And like we said at the beginning of the episode, you know, if you especially if you do club racing, you know what it's like maintaining a bike, and to go somewhere where you hire a work area, workspace, get your bike up on the lift and get all the jobs done to it in an environment with like-minded people, all the tools, £25,000 worth of kits there, and you can do all your jobs on your bike with, like I say, with guidance from experts. So if you're interested in that, search the Machine Shop Hinckley, and the number is 0749 6999037. So
are they on the Instagram and stuff? Are they?
I think the Irish Bob's got an Instagram. So
it's not under Irish Bob. That's how I know him as Irish Bob anyway. But he's seriously a very approachable man. You know what I mean? Good sense of humour. And he's yeah, I don't know why he's left Ireland. He can ask him himself. He's obviously in trouble with someone high up.
And as well as thanks to our sponsors, of course, and a big thanks, as usual, to our patrons. We really appreciate the support, especially through times like this when all money's tight. So anyone making donations towards the cause, we'll really appreciate it. So thanks very much. And wrapping things up, Dom, have you got any other crack?
Well, obviously, this elusive backflip. I definitely want to do it. But it's obviously it's getting the time to do it, and obviously with the way things are, you know, we're just trying to find the mound of earth and the farmer that would quite willingly give up a bit of his time to let us go on and, quite frankly, destroy the environment for 10 minutes while we try to execute some glory. But bar that, Chrissy, no, just take it on by, young'un, take it on by. But no, hope you all enjoyed the pod. Hopefully you enjoyed the interview. Obviously, you know, Neil, but don't go listen to his podcast because it's not as good as this one. You've all got taste. You're all amazing, and you keep the flags high. Fly the colours, people.
We haven't mentioned for a while with our 5-star ratings, but we're doing
look at you,
we're doing swimmingly. We're up to 312 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts there, so really appreciate all the ratings everyone's been leaving. We've just had a recent one from Rob599. He said, isolation cured, 5-star. Started listening to you guys at the start of isolation. It's fair to say it's keeping me sane. Just about to start season 3. Top work, lads. So whenever you get to this podcast, obviously you'll hear that. But Rob, thanks very much.
You might have given up by then. I think we dip a little bit. But
and thanks again to everyone else who's leaving reviews. Really appreciate it, and we'll catch up with our next guest very soon.
Have we got a next guest? Yes, we have. Champion. Right. Well, until next time. See you in a bit.
Spot on. See you later, mate. Take care.